The Carathian medical station orbited the gas giant Vel 7, its silver hull catching the purple light of distant stars. Inside its white corridors, species from across the galaxy came to heal their wounds and cure their diseases. The station had one rule above all others: no fighting, no exceptions. Every species agreed to this when they docked their ships. Dr. Elena Vasquez had worked on the station for 3 standard years. She was the only human among the 2,000 medical staff. Most aliens still did not trust humans. They called them Deathworlders, creatures born on a planet so hostile that everything there had evolved to kill or be killed. Elena had grown used to the stares, the whispers, the way other species moved to the opposite side of corridors when she walked past. But Elena loved her work. She specialized in xenopediatrics, the care of young aliens from different species. Children were children, she believed, no matter how many eyes they had or what color their blood ran. The Vrakthari arrived at the station on a damaged warship. They were the most feared predator species in the known galaxy. Standing 8 feet tall with bodies covered in thick gray scales, they had claws that could tear through starship hulls. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness, and their teeth were designed for one purpose only: killing. The Vrakthari were in the middle of a brutal civil war. One faction had attacked a colony world belonging to another faction. Among the survivors were 17 cubs, young Vrakthari between the ages of 3 and 7 in human years. Their parents had died in the attack. Their guardians had died protecting them during the escape. They arrived at the medical station with burns, broken bones, and trauma that went far deeper than their physical wounds. Station Commander Threlix, a 6-armed Maluvian with skin like blue glass, called an emergency meeting. Nobody wanted to treat the Vrakthari cubs. The Mendorians refused because Vrakthari had hunted their species for centuries. The Crystalline Collective said their bodies were too fragile to risk contact with predator young. The Gorvalian medical team simply locked themselves in their quarters and did not respond to any communications. Elena stood up in the meeting room. "I will do it," she said. The room fell silent. Every alien eye turned to look at her. Commander Threlix made a sound like cracking ice, which was the Maluvian expression of extreme surprise. "Dr. Vasquez," the commander said slowly, "these are Vrakthari. Their cubs begin hunting training at age 2. They have killed medical professionals before when frightened or confused." "They are children," Elena replied. "Scared children who just lost everything. I can help them." The Vrakthari faction that had brought the cubs to the station was led by a massive warrior named Krell Vastok. He had 3 scars running down his face, and one of his arms was mechanical, a replacement for the one he lost in battle decades ago. When he heard that only the human had volunteered, he demanded to meet her. Elena walked into the docking bay without fear. She had learned long ago that predators could smell fear, and showing it only made things worse. Krell Vastok stood surrounded by 12 Vrakthari warriors, each one carrying enough weapons to destroy half the station. "You are small," Krell Vastok said, his voice like rocks grinding together. "Soft. How will you handle our young?" "With patience," Elena said. "With kindness. With the same care I would give any child." Krell Vastok leaned down until his face was inches from hers. His red eyes studied her for a long moment. Then he made a sound deep in his throat, something between a growl and a laugh. "Humans," he said. "We have heard stories. Your kind kills apex predators for sport on your homeworld. You survive environments that would kill most species in hours. Perhaps there is strength in you that is not visible." He stepped back and gestured to his warriors. "The cubs are yours to heal. But know this, human. If any of them die because of your failure, I will kill you myself. This is not a threat. It is simply what will happen." Elena nodded. "Understood. Now let me see my patients." The 17 cubs were kept in a large medical ward on the station's lower level. When Elena first entered, she found them huddled together in the corner, hissing and growling at anyone who came near. The smallest ones were crying, a sound that was surprisingly similar to human children crying, just deeper and rougher. Elena sat down on the floor near the door. She did not approach them. She did not make any sudden movements. She simply sat there and began to talk in a soft voice. "Hello," she said. "My name is Elena. I am a doctor. I am here to help you feel better. I know you are scared. I know you miss your families. You do not have to trust me right away. I will wait." She sat there for 6 hours. She did not eat. She did not drink. She did not leave to use the facilities. She just sat and talked, telling them stories about Earth, about her childhood, about her pet dog Max, who had been her best friend growing up. The cubs watched her with suspicious red eyes. Some of them fell asleep. Others continued to growl whenever she shifted position. Finally, the smallest cub, a female with a damaged leg that had been poorly treated, limped toward her. The other cubs made alarmed sounds, but the small one ignored them. She stopped a foot away from Elena and sniffed. "You smell like prey," the cub said in broken common tongue. "But you do not act like prey." Elena smiled. "On my planet, we have a saying, looks can be deceiving." The cub considered this. Then she sat down next to Elena and leaned against her side. "My leg hurts," she said. "I know," Elena replied. "Will you let me look at it?" The cub nodded. That was the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, Elena worked without rest. She treated burns with specialized gel designed for Vrakthari scales. She set broken bones and administered pain medication carefully calibrated for predator physiology. She stayed with them through nightmares that made them thrash and scream. She learned their names, their personalities, their fears. The smallest cub with the bad leg was called Vila. She was 5 years old and had seen her mother die protecting her. She attached herself to Elena completely, following her everywhere, sleeping pressed against her side. The largest cub was Kreth, a 7-year-old male who tried to act brave for the younger ones but cried when he thought no one was watching. There were twins named Sorak and Morak who communicated in their own private language. There was a 6-year-old named Thrall who had not spoken a single word since arriving at the station. Elena loved them all. She did not care that they were predators. She did not care that their species had killed thousands across the galaxy. She saw only children in pain, and she dedicated herself to healing them. The problems began during the 3rd week. Commander Threlix received a message from the enemy Vrakthari faction. They had learned about the cubs on the station. They demanded the children be handed over for proper judgment. When the commander refused, citing the station's neutral status, the faction sent a more direct message. They were coming to take the cubs by force. Krell Vastok and his warriors prepared for battle, but they were outnumbered. The enemy faction had 3 warships approaching the station. Krell Vastok had only his damaged vessel and 40 warriors. The math was simple and brutal. The station went into lockdown. All non-essential personnel were evacuated to escape pods. The medical staff were given the choice to leave or stay. Most left. Elena stayed. On the night before the enemy faction was expected to arrive, Elena sat with the cubs in their ward. She had told them nothing about the danger, but they could sense it. Vrakthari cubs could feel tension and fear in the air, like a physical presence. "Something bad is coming," Kreth said. It was not a question. Elena considered lying. She decided against it. These children had seen too much death to be protected by comfortable falsehoods. "Yes," she said, "some very bad people want to hurt you, but I will not let them." "How?" Vila asked, pressed tight against Elena's side. "You are small. You have no claws, no teeth for fighting." Elena pulled the small cub closer. "On my planet, we have something more dangerous than claws. We have the will to protect what we love, and we do not stop until we succeed or we die. That night, Elena could not sleep. She lay on the narrow medical bed she had moved into the ward, surrounded by the sounds of sleeping cubs. Their breathing was deep and rhythmic. Their scales rustled against the soft bedding she had acquired for them. Small claws twitched as they dreamed. Around midnight, Elena heard sounds in the corridor outside. Footsteps. Multiple sets. She reached for the small plasma pistol she had hidden under her pillow, a weapon she had carried since her days on the frontier colonies. The door to the ward slid open. Elena prepared to fight, to die if necessary, to protect her children. But it was not the enemy. Standing in the doorway was Vila. Behind her, arranged in a careful line, were all 16 other cubs. They had slipped out of their beds without making a sound. They had opened the door using skills that Elena had not known they possessed. "What are you doing?" Elena whispered. Vila did not answer. Instead, she walked to Elena's bed and sat down at its foot. She positioned herself facing the door, her small claws extended, her red eyes glowing in the darkness. One by one, the other cubs took positions around the bed. They formed a perfect circle, each one facing outward, each one in a defensive stance they must have learned from their parents before those parents died. "We protect you now," Kreth said quietly. "You protected us. This is how it works." Elena felt tears forming in her eyes. "You are children. You should not have to fight." "We are Vrakthari," Vila said. Her voice was small but fierce. "We are born to fight, but tonight we choose what we fight for." Outside the ward, the station's security system showed a warning. An unauthorized ship had docked at one of the lower airlocks. Enemy warriors were boarding the station. The station's guards, a mix of species hired for their combat abilities, received orders to protect the medical ward at all costs. 20 guards rushed to the lower levels, weapons ready. They reached the corridor outside the cubs' ward just as the first enemy, Vrakthari, appeared. The guards raised their weapons. The enemy warriors raised theirs. Blood was about to be spilled. Then one of the guards looked through the window into the ward. He saw the human doctor lying on her bed. He saw the 17 predator cubs arranged in a protective circle around her, each one ready to fight and die for the soft, small creature who had shown them kindness. The guard was a Maluvian named Drex. He had fought in 3 wars. He had killed more enemies than he could count. But in that moment, seeing those cubs, something changed in him. "Hold fire," he said to his fellow guards. "What?" another guard demanded. "We have our orders." "Look at them," Drex said. "Those cubs are ready to die for that human. When was the last time any of us were ready to die for something other than money?" The guards looked. They saw what Drex saw, and something shifted in them too. Drex stepped forward, away from his fellow guards. He positioned himself at the door of the ward, his weapon pointed at the approaching enemy. "New plan," he said. "We do not just fight for the station tonight. We fight for them." One by one, the other guards joined him. They formed a line outside the ward, a wall of weapons and determination. The enemy Vrakthari warriors charged. The battle was brutal and bloody. Guards fell, enemy warriors fell. The corridor filled with the sounds of plasma fire and screaming. Inside the ward, the cubs held their positions. Elena held her little pistol, ready to be the last line of defense. Vila growled at every explosion, every scream. Her small body tense with the need to fight, but no enemy reached the door. When the battle ended, 12 guards were dead. All 30 enemy warriors lay motionless in the corridor. Drex was wounded badly, missing half of one arm. But he was alive. He collapsed against the wall outside the ward, breathing heavily. The door opened. Elena stepped out, her pistol still in her hand. She looked at the carnage, at the wounded guards, at Drex. "Why?" she asked him. "You could have run. You owed us nothing." Drex looked up at her with his crystal blue eyes. "I have done terrible things in my life," he said. "I wanted to do one good thing before I died. And you, human, you showed those predator children love. That is the most powerful thing I have ever seen. It deserved protection." Behind Elena, 17 cubs emerged from the ward. They looked at the dead enemy warriors. They looked at the wounded guards. Vila walked forward and stopped in front of Drex. "You protected our human," she said. "You are packed now." In Vrakthari culture, there was no higher honor than being declared pack. Drex, a Maluvian who had spent his life as a hired killer, felt tears forming in his eyes for the first time in decades. When Krell Vastok and his warriors arrived moments later, having fought through enemy forces on other parts of the station, they found a scene that would become legend among the Vrakthari for generations. They found a small human woman surrounded by 17 cubs who refused to leave her side. They found alien guards bleeding and dying because they had chosen to protect predator children they did not know. They found the enemy faction defeated, their warriors dead in the corridors. Krell Vastok looked at Elena. "You did this?" he asked. Elena shook her head. "We did this, all of us, together." The massive warrior was silent for a long moment. Then he knelt before Elena, a gesture of respect that Vrakthari showed only to the greatest warriors of their species. "The cubs will remain in your care," he said. "You have proven yourself worthy. You are pack." In the months that followed, stories spread across the galaxy. Stories of the human who had tamed predator children with kindness. Stories of the guards who had died protecting cubs that were not their own. Stories of a night when 17 little Vrakthari formed a ring around a human's bed, and not a single enemy had managed to reach her. Elena continued her work on the station. The cubs grew stronger under her care. When they were finally healed enough to leave, they refused to go without her. Krell Vastok offered Elena a position in his faction, a place of honor among the Vrakthari. She accepted. Years later, when Elena Vasquez died of old age, surrounded by 17 grown Vrakthari who called her mother, the Vrakthari built a monument in her honor. It showed a small human woman surrounded by a protective ring of cubs. The inscription read simply, "She taught us that true strength is not in claws or teeth. It is in the courage to love those that others fear." And across the galaxy, species who had once feared humans began to understand something important. Humans were not just death-worlders. They were not just survivors. They were beings capable of love so powerful that even the deadliest predators in the universe would lay down their lives to protect it. That was the real reason to fear them, and the real reason to respect them.